more minutes for others. We'd wait a few more minutes for others to join the call and then we begin. Please don't just be on the call, grab a note, grab a pen, and be ready to learn from, want of a better word, one of the best in the field. Okay. So why thinking outside the box as a data analyst? Someone would ask. I think most of us agree that data analytics is a very evolving field. And once you get the skill, you have to try your best to ensure that you keep improving upon the skill so that you're not left behind. But even after you get the skill and you're working in those companies you want to work in, what else can you do to stand out in the field? Because each and every month, each and every year, people are improving upon their skill. So what else can you do to stand out? This is why we are doing this webinar. And at the end of the session, we, the team at Blossom, hope that you would stand out in your various career paths you choose, be it applying data analytics with your original academic background. Before we begin the conversation, we would want to take a few comments as to what you hope to learn from today's webinar. And please, if you would want to talk, share what you're looking forward to hearing from today's webinar, you can just lift your hand and you'll be given the opportunity to speak. Does anybody want to go? Anybody? Or should I pick? I see a lot of people. Who wants to raise the curtain for us? Okay. Nana Amayel, would you mind sharing why you are joining the webinar today and what you hope to take out? Hi, Nana Amayel. If you are speaking, please, you are muted.
No,
Okay.
I just can you hear me?
Yes, please, loud and clear.
Okay, so what do I expect to take from this webinar? I just want to see ways by which I can upgrade myself, improve in the area in which I find myself. I mean, at work.
All right, all right. Thank you so much for sharing.
Those are the key points, and that's the key point.
All right, all right. Thank you for sharing. And we know that at the end of this session, you would have all those questions answered too. Who else wants to speak? Thank you, Nana Mayal, for sharing. Abena, do you want to speak? All right.
Hi, good evening,
Hi,
everyone.
Abena.
I'm looking forward to today's webinar. Actually, the topic is very interesting to me, and I look forward to seeing the ways I can think outside the box as a data analyst and improve companies and improve businesses. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Well said. Well said. Well said. Okay. Thank you so much. Okay, Philip Asamoah, please unmute and speak.
Hello.
Hi, Philip.
Please, how are you doing?
I'm very well. Thank you for asking.
Please, by the end of this session, looking at the world we find ourselves in today, where machines are replacing human beings, even if you are working hard, by the end of this session, I want to be at a cutting edge where I can also take an advantage as an employee, whereby I wouldn't be replaced. I wouldn't be easily replaced by anything else just because of the value I bring to the company.
All right, all right. I sort of feel like you summed up what everybody else has to say. It's 6 p.m. and thank you all for your contributions. We hope that at the end of this webinar, you all have answers to your various challenges or potential challenges in your workplaces. Without much ado, I would like to invite our speaker, Mr. Roger Kayumba, to do us the honors of leading the webinar themed Thinking Outside the Box as a Data Analyst. Once again, I am Cornelia Mautonojidegbe. Mr. Roger Kayumba, your audience.
Yeah, hi, Connie Love. Hi, everybody. I hope everyone can hear me clearly.
Loud and clear.
Okay, so it looks like Connie Love, you've done that assignment I wanted to do just to gauge the audience expectations. And it looks like we are all expecting to really pick out a lot from this session. So I hope whatever I've put together becomes very useful to all of us. Just to make a point, for me as well, whilst preparing for this webinar, I think it was also a learning experience as well. I won't put myself to be in that expert field sincerely. It's a constant learning journey. I constantly learn every day from the engagements I have, from the constant talks I do. I equally learn a lot. And for me as well, it's also a learning experience to really pick ideas from everybody. So I don't want it to be that usual presentation session where slides are put up and we talk through and there are questions and answers at the end of the day. I want it to be very interactive. They aren't bulky loaded slides. They are very interactive slides. And so I want this to actually be a conversation we have. Because the topic itself is a thought-provoking topic, which is meant to reshape our thinking as experts, as professionals, as enthusiasts in this field of data science, right? So for me, that is something I want us to really focus on, right? Let this be a conversation. Feel free if there are sections of the presentation where you'd want clarification. I'm more than open to have that, but let's have some structure to how we do it. I mean, let's maintain the standard practice of using the raise your hand option to engage. All right, and so just some few housekeeping. I may not be able to see the screen fully, especially the Zoom screen. So maybe Cornelove, if there's any hand up, just prompt me and then I can take that. Okay. So permit me, let me just share my screen and let's be sure if everyone can see my screen. I hope my screen is visible. If it's visible, just give me a thumbs up and I'll put it in presentation mode. So once you see my screen, just give me a thumbs up and just to note that everybody can see my screen before I put it in presentation mode. Okay, so it looks like everyone can see my screen. Let me put it in presentation mode. So now just to start this conversation, permit me to first introduce myself before we even zoom into the conversation. So my name is quite a mouthful. You can see I have two English names, Roger Michael. I mean, it's just because, I'm a Catholic, and for most of us who are Catholics in this conversation, you know what the Catholic culture is. You are baptized and you are given either a saint's name or an angel name. So, I prefer to take Michael, right? So you'll see Roger Michael Kayumba, and basically that's my name. And my background really is in geomatics engineering. I have an MSc in geoinformation science. I'm a bit biased in the geosciences. But again, I've had opportunity to engage in a number of professional circles. I mean, started my career mainly in consulting, technology consulting. So I've lived mostly in the consulting world. I mean, having worked in companies where, I mean, you have the development of products, equally standard consulting. Spent close to about 4 years in Deloitte consulting, where led a number of projects. I was privileged to be on quite a number of big ticket projects where I contributed my skills and efforts in deploying a number of solutions. And I hope this experience I'm bringing on board becomes useful to you on this topic, right? So, I mean, again, the topic, as you can see, is a topic that should provoke our thinking. It's a topic that should shift our thinking away from the standard nature of working with tools, working with models, into working as a strategic professional, right? So for me, I would like to coin a subtopic out of this and term it as unlocking innovation, value, and opportunity, right? So in this conversation, we should be able to pick out ideas. We should be able to pick out practices that helps us to innovate, that helps us to create value in our working circles, in our professional circles. Even for all those of us who are still in school, I mean, it's also an opportunity to really reshape your thinking into how you operate as a data professional. And most importantly, to create opportunity. What kind of opportunity are we talking about? We are talking about opportunities related to creating jobs, creating tools that become turn up to become startups, and at the end of the day, turn up to create value in the lives of people who engage with these tools. All right. So again, this is just to give you a holistic idea as to what we are going to have, the conversations we're going to have. Okay. So permit me to zoom into the next slide. And for me, I expect at the end of the day, whatever I deliver to meet these key points. So I have listed here 5 key points, and I'll go through them one by one. And I hope at the end of the day, we should be able to, the value that this webinar gives us should be able to focus on these 5 key points. If not all 5 key points, possibly we might even expand on a conversation, because I would want this to be more of a conversation than just a presentation. All right. So again, I encourage us to participate, drop in your questions, drop in ideas if there are any. If anything provokes your thinking, just drop it in the chat. And again, you can also raise your hand so that we can engage. Okay. So one is for us to really understand that, I mean, in this professional circle we find ourselves as data professional, there is a box in which we operate, or there's a box in which most of us might be operating. Myself, I won't exclude myself from this conversation. All right. So again, it's for us to really recognize that there's a mindset around this professional career, this professional journey that we've taken, right? And I mean, it's no fault of ours that at times we might operate in a box, or we might operate in a limiting mindset. And for us today is for us to really understand or appreciate that some of the practices we might be engaged in might be boxing us into a limiting mindset, right? Now, beyond that, I'd also want to convey the idea that we can actually rewire our thinking, shifting away from the box mindset to really being more innovative, being more adaptive to change, being more focused on creating value than just building tools and solutions, right? The third point is I'd also like to provoke your thinking into beginning to discover how you can create opportunities, opportunities for yourself, opportunities for the professional circle in which you find yourselves, or opportunities for even generating revenue for yourself, right? If your focus is to go into consulting services, your focus is to build solutions that you can productize. I think this conversation, I hope, will deliver this to you. And I would also want us to explore two concepts, that is entrepreneurship, intrapreneurship, and then interpreneurship, right? Again, these two words can be a mouthful. So it's intrapreneurship and then intrapreneurship and then entrepreneurship, right? I always get it mixed up, right? So for me, these two topics should help us really think around how we can focus our energy, focus our talents into creating value in the companies we find ourselves. So that should focus on intrapreneurship, and then how we can also create value and then create opportunities that we can productize, that we can create startups out of, and that will be focused more on entrepreneurship, right? I keep mixing these two words up. All right. So again, it's for us to really spark our innovation and help us really think around these two concepts. Well, how we can create value in the companies we find ourselves, and also how we can create new opportunities, new ideas that we can create startups out of. All right. And most importantly, I would want us to walk away with actionable steps, right? Again, my focus for this conversation tonight is not just to spew out ideas and then we go back and then slip it off. These ideas should be ideas that we can actionalize, right? We can take to action by tomorrow and even possibly tonight. You can begin to scribble down some ideas that can help shape your trajectory. Okay, so for me, I hope at the end of this webinar, we cover these key topics. You take these takeaways at the end of the day. And for me, it will be very exciting to know that I would have touched on these key topics at the end of the day. Okay. All right. So it's important we set a tone by really understanding fully what this topic really represents. All right. So again, Connie Love, I see some comments dropping. I don't know how you'd want us to handle it. If it's fine for you to box it up to the end, it's fine. But if I can chip in some comments, just let me know. So I'll start again by really helping us understand the concept of the box. And again, by the topic, it should tell us that there is definitely a box in which we operate as professionals, right? So again, the concept of the box in itself represents some norms and traditions in which we operate, all right, as data analysts, as data professionals, as data scientists, whatever bucket of the data profession you find yourselves, there are certain norms that we operate in, myself inclusive, and I believe we can begin to think around some of these norms in which we operate, right? So for example, we are in a profession where we are requested to actually produce insights, right? You are requested to produce analytics. You are requested to produce feedback that helps business make decisions, right? And most of these operations have to be actionalized through building models, building tools. So over a long term, we might find ourselves limited to routine tasks, right? Where you always find yourself going into a script or going into a model or going into a tool. And at times, you shift your focus away from focusing on delivering value to just using some of these tools, right? And if you're in the visualization world, at times you might limit yourself to wanting to make your visualization more fanciful than really wanting the visualizations to tell a story, right? And again, these are some of the limiting ideas that we might find ourselves operating in, all right? Now, what the box actually sets our mindset to do is to operate in a comfort zone, right? And again, that comfort zone might be us operating in the confines of our professional abilities. And what I mean by that is, again, using the data visualization example, if your focus over your professional career has been to become a storyteller through building dashboards, right? You become limited in that confines of just building dashboards. And the scary part of that journey can be you might start thinking around just building dashboards that looks fanciful than building dashboards that deliver value or tell stories, right? So again, for me, the box really is this confines of norms and traditions that we operate in as data professionals. And this sets us to actually operate in a comfort zone where we are just responding to tasks, generating reports, or working based on established methods. All right. Now, if you look at the boxes below, there are three broad boxes I would actually put this norms and traditions. So the first box you see there is we will tend to be focusing a lot more on tasks than problems, right? So again, using the same example of data visualizations, possibly maybe you find yourself in a company where there's a manager above you and your manager is responsible for bringing requests for visualizations, right? So maybe there's a report on um, um, financials that have to be developed, maybe a report on sales trajectories that have to be developed, right? So maybe that sales report is developed at a one-time goal and you automate the report, for example. Or maybe you tie the reports to a data source and this data source now updates the reports in real time. So it means your role now becomes maintaining the report or maintaining the dashboard, right? So it's more of a task routine now than actually generating new insights, right? So, I mean, it's no fault of yours because, again, the problem has been solved. You've generated a report, the report is updating in real time. The report is made available to management. Management has access to it in real time. It's no fault of yours that you now zoom into a task manager than an actual problem solver, right? So for me, these are norms and traditions that sets us in a comfort zone, right? And again, some of these norms, traditions are no fault of ours as professionals. But again, it's important we understand that the nature of our work can shift us in that direction. And once we understand this, we can actually put in strategies in place to be able to counter some of this, right? So let's move on to the second box where we are sticking to established methods, right? Now, this is very linked to us shifting away from actually building an insight to actually maintaining reports, right? So for example, maybe you would set up a standard data pipeline, for example, where data is updating from an SQL report, or maybe data is updating from an API connection, right? So maybe there's a standard methodology that you would have set up as an analyst, as a data engineer, as whatever bucket of the data profession you find yourselves. We end up setting methodologies, and it's important. I mean, we can't do away with the methodologies, but what the methodologies also end up doing is it end up putting us again in that box, all right, of following routines that actually being creative, right? Again, it's no fault of ours. It's just the nature of our work, all right? The third box is where we begin to start working in reaction mode, right? And again, that is based on the fact that our work is now becoming a lot more routine than actually becoming a lot more focused on innovating, right? And again, it's no fault of ours, but it's just a nature of our work, right? So again, this slide is this slide is actually meant for us to appreciate that the box in which we find ourselves might at times be based on the evolving nature of our work, right? So again, I'm just using a data visualization example because that is something that most of us should be able to easily relate with. All right. So I'll move into another slide, which should help us actually appreciate what this comfort zone actually looks like. All right. So I mean, we've actually understood what the box is. We've actually understood what moves us into working in that box. And again, I don't want us to think that it's always a fault of ours. At times, it's just the nature of our evolving work, and we can't do away with that. But again, it's important we understand that that is the nature of our work. That is the nature of some of the things we'll be doing. And so we need to actually appreciate this, right? So now let's zoom into the comfort zone. So now we are in the box, we are in our comfort zones. We are just maintaining data pipelines. We are just updating SQL scripts, right? So what this comfort zone actually puts us in is it puts us in predefined roles, right? And those predefined roles can be focused around retrieving data or producing reports or building dashboards. Again, there's nothing wrong with that. All right. I mean, in the world of the professional circle, we always need our roles well defined. There's nothing wrong with that. Okay, our roles need to be well defined so that we know within the what context in which we are working, right? But again, we find ourselves in an evolving world, right? We find ourselves in a profession where management is beginning to shift its attention from just building reports to now focusing on prescriptive analytics, predictive analytics, right? And that is where we need to begin to rewire our thinking from just thinking as experts who are responsible for routine tasks into experts who are responsible for a strategic line, right? So again, you can see the last line of the preamble. I mean, while this makes us proficient as experts, right? It actually puts us within a limiting mindset, right? Now, there are 4 key areas which I'll discuss on this slide, right? And you can see in the middle, there's a nice graphic of a lady excited working in her box, right? I'm sure maybe she's building some nice visuals. Ladies, I'm sure we are always excited building nice reports, okay? Now, the first point I'd like us to discuss here, and which is very important, is what this box, what is limiting mindsets, what is comfort zone puts us in? It puts us in a role where we see our role as a support role than a strategic role, right? And I would want us from today, all right, as data professionals, we are not in a support role, right? We may have been in a support role over the years, but the profession is evolving, right? We are becoming very strategic contributors to business decisions. And it's something we really need to rewire our thinking, all right? So one of the key points here is we see our role to be more of a back office function than an actual business driver, right? And I hope this mindset is a mindset that we shift away from, all right? Again, the world of data science, again, I don't want this conversation to be a conversation around the jargons. I want this conversation to be thinking strategically than just focusing on the jargons, all right? Because focusing on the jargons doesn't put us on the conversation table. It doesn't put us on the table where we can actually influence business decisions, all right? So I want us to begin to see our roles not as a back office function, but more of as a business driver function, right? So again, the next point is it doesn't this our roles or our limiting mindsets doesn't step up to make suggestions or present ideas. All right, because we see our roles as more of a support function, it automatically rewires us not to make suggestions, right? Not to propose changes, not to present ideas. Because again, if you think of your role as a support role, you would always just see yourself as a background player. All right. You won't see yourself as a role that is constantly making suggestions, constantly proposing ideas. And again, let's understand that we are in a role or we are in a function where we get to uncover a lot of findings, a lot of insights in business, right? So if you find yourself, for example, in the finance industry and looking at how things are shifting globally, right? You can easily uncover insights on possibly this tariff changes that are ongoing, which can influence how the market shifts, right? Which can influence how the stock market shifts, right? Now, these insights can be very beneficial to management, right? And so if you see your function as just a back office function and you don't propose ideas, you don't present the insights you're generating, right? You're not going to be found in the conversation circle, right? So the last point here is this limiting mindset helps puts us in a position where we shy away from contributing to strategic decisions, like I've already stated. All right. So again, this is what the outcome of the comfort zone is, right? Where we are just seeing our role as support roles or back office functions than seeing our roles as strategic functions. All right. So I'll move on to the next point, which is where this comfort zone puts us in a fear of experimentation or failure, right? Again, it's no fault of ours. Once you find yourself in a role where you are constantly partaking in routine tasks, right? At times you fear to experiment, all right? What if maybe your SQL chain breaks, or what if maybe your data pipeline breaks, right? These are all fears that which are no fault of ours as professionals, all right? But we need to shift away from just working in the confines of the tools and models to actually thinking strategically, right? And for this point, I really want to challenge us, right, to begin to actually think of ways we can actually move away from just focusing our work to the building of scripts, to the building of models, to actually testing different use cases, right? And here I'm not talking about changing the structure of the technology or the stack you have. I mean, that won't be intelligent. If you find yourself in an environment where the technology stack has been predefined, it's working fine. I don't think it makes sense for us to change that. But what this point actually points to is how do we think strategically in terms of bringing ideas that we can test, bringing use cases that we can test in business, right? So maybe there's a report that is churning out sales outcomes, right? Profit and loss outcomes, right? Why can't we add, for example, maybe the effect of Forex on sales? Why can't we add, if you find yourself in the fast moving goods industry, like I currently find myself, why can't we add the impact of Forex, impact of freights if we are maybe sourcing products from offshore, right? Instead of just sticking to the narrowed view of what our sales are looking like, how is Forex impacting our sales? I mean, how is our procurement pipeline impacting our sales? These are all ideas we can test, right? Within the confines of the industry you find yourselves, within the confines of um, again, the industry you find yourself. All right. So again, the point here of our comfort zone limiting us to have fear of failure is not really around the technology stack we are working with. It's not really around the tools we are working with, but it's around testing new ideas, testing new methodologies. Right. And again, I don't want this conversation to be focused on the technology stack. I think there are too many conversations out there which focuses on what stack is the best, what stack helps us get the most advantage, save costs. There are so many conversations out there. The conversation of today is really to help rewire, reshape our thinking around how we approach our role, right? To shifting from just support roles to actually strategic roles. All right. So again, that's the point of fear of experimentation or failure. All right. Now, the next point, which is on the lower left corner, is avoiding stakeholder conversations. All right. This is a very important point, again, because the role in which we find ourselves, data is consumed across the entire organization. All right. I don't know any data professional where data is only consumed at management level. Data is consumed right from the tactical level right up to management level, right? So if you find yourself in finance, again, I love finance because of the kind of circles I find myself in. If you find yourself in a financial industry, right, a lot of the reports you churn out will be used by a tactical team who is maybe deployed on the field, right? Maybe a sales team, for example, right? It will be used by managers who are controlling people, who are controlling business outcomes. It will be used by top line managers who are looking at the strategic landscape of the entire business, right? So it's important we develop the skill, we develop the finesse, we develop the passion to actually engage, right? Because again, let's take note that whatever reports we churn out, we definitely have to present them out, right? Not everybody understands the A/B testing and the wild models we are building, right? We have to be able to break these ideas down to layman language, right? And again, I want us to shift away from using the jargons. I mean, let's stop that. All right. So the topic on avoiding stakeholder conversation is really to actually challenge us to engage more, right? So let's not just engage with our managers, or let's not just engage with our direct connects, right? Let's try and actually make a way, or I mean, find a way to actually engage with top line managers, even down to the tactical level, so that we get to understand actually what is happening on the ground, right? And again, I'm at times I find myself um, 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 wanting where I'm only focused on maybe just talking to high level managers, and you forget talking to the tactical team who are doing the actual heavy lifting, right? Again, using the sales example, right? So it's important we actually build that um, 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 character, that we build that attitude of constantly engaging, right? And again, that helps shape the kind of insights that we build, right? If we know exactly what is happening at a technical level, a tactical level, and we know exactly what management expects, we know exactly what the business outcomes will look like, we know exactly what the strategy looks like, right? It helps you to actually build the insights to holistically capture end to end, right? Whatever insights that you have to capture. All right. Last and not least, which is a big problem. Again, I'm very responsible for this, right? Or I'm a big corporate to this. All right. At times we tend to focus too much on the tools and not the problems. All right. At times we are too engraved in I don't want my Excel script, or I don't want my Excel model to break, or I don't want my scripts to break, which is not wrong. All right. So again, I don't want to penalize anybody, myself inclusive. All right. We need to build correct models. We need to build correct scripts. The scripts need to work. All right. Really, and that is a test of our professional ability. Right. But let's shift away from just thinking around building perfect models, perfect tools, to actually thinking around what the big business outcomes are, what the big picture is. All right. So this is something that I believe some of us are doing, most of us are already doing, but I would encourage us to do this the more, right? So that we focus our efforts, we focus our energies on not just building scripts, but actually focusing on the big picture. Okay. So I'll move on to the next slide, where we now begin to have conversations around how we break out of this box. All right. So how do we break out of this box? We mainly have to adopt a new mindset, a new way of thinking around our profession, around our roles. All right. So there are two visualizations here. There's one person in a box, and then there's somebody who is free to think and free to generate ideas. All right. So I prefer to position these two infographics. One being the person in the box. I mean, used to working in your limiting mindset, used to working in your limiting beliefs um, 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 the comfort zone that you find yourself, as against you working as an innovative thinker, right? So starting with the man inside the box, right? The man inside the box tends to just be a tax executor, right? Again, that is no fault of ours. It's the nature of our work, right? But again, I want us to begin to challenge our thought process, where we begin to shift away from just executing tasks, from just maintaining scripts, from just maintaining dashboards, right? To actually beginning to shift into solving problems, right? Into generating ideas that business can use to generate new insights, right? And so again, the man inside the box is still limited as a task manager, right? Or as a task executor. But the man who is outside the box, or the lady who is outside the box, is an innovative thinker. All right. Is a thinker that solves problems, is a thinker that focuses on design thinking, is a thinker, or is a professional that is not limited by his conventional ideas or beliefs. All right. So the question is, how do we rewire our thinking? All right. We need to embrace curiosity and creativity the more. All right. It's very important. Again, in the nature of our evolving careers, you can see, I mean, most of us are preview to how AI is evolving and how AI is beginning to shift how tasks are managed, right? There's a lot of conversations around the fear of AI taking people's jobs, right? AI will only take your job if your job is a routine task, right? But if you are focused on creativity, if you are focused on actually constantly asking questions, all right, generating new ideas. I mean, even though AI can actually do that, trust me, humans are still way superior in the creativity circle. All right, it's going to take a long time for AI to hit that level of creativity of humans, right? So we need that creativity cap as data professionals, all right? We need to cultivate the habit of asking why and not and what if, right, in our analysis. All right. Again, this is something we are already doing. Most of us are already doing this, but let's make it a habit. All right. When we are building our scripts, we are building our reports, building our models. Let's constantly ask ourselves why. Right. Again, the why question is very key in the profession in which we find ourselves, because we are constantly requested to actually generate insights, generate reports, and answer why certain things are happening. All right. And this is a habit which if we cultivate constantly, we can actually shift away from the limiting mindset. All right. Let's not be afraid of testing new things. Let's not be afraid of even if we want to still work in the confines of our tools. Let's not be afraid of testing new scripts, testing new metrics. Again, let that be a habit. All right. Let's not be afraid of breaking things. All right. So let's embrace the thinking of let's just test it. If it breaks, we can always shift back. We can always do the control Z and shift back to the default. All right. So let's explore and embrace that mindset of wanting to actually test new things and explore new things. And that is one way we can actually break out of this box. Okay. So I'll keep moving, and we are zooming into a new realm of our conversation where, I mean, we've set a baseline, or we've set the foundation on what puts us in a limiting box. We've set a foundation on how we can shift away from this box. Now, I want to actually present actionable steps we can take, all right, to creating opportunities. Again, I'm shifting into the realm of us creating opportunities in the companies we find ourselves, or even creating opportunities that can be turned into startups, that can be turned into new businesses, that can be turned into consultancy opportunities to generate revenue, not only for ourselves and even creating jobs, right? So there are four main ideas I would like to share, right? The first idea is to move away from the employee mindset to an innovator mindset, right? Again, this is beginning to sound like a cliche, right? Because it's constantly being pushed out there, right? Let's shift away from an employee mindset to an innovator mindset or an initiator mindset, right? But how do we get this done? All right. I want to challenge us, all right, from the week coming, all right, as data professionals, let's begin to think of ideas we can propose to management. All right. If you're already doing that, kudos to us. All right. But if we are not doing this, let's begin to think of ways we can actually propose new ideas. So if there's a dashboard you are maintaining and you realize we can do this differently, or we can analyze this differently, or we can test this. Let's bring this up to management. Let's bring this up to our direct management lines, right? So I would want to really challenge us to start making this, proposing new ideas for improvement, suggesting new ideas for improvement. And again, let's start it from next week, all right? I want this to be very actionable and not just the usual talks, all right? Um, so automating a routine task you normally do, right? So, I mean, take any routine task you normally do, try and find a way you can automate it. All right. Again, we are in an age and time of automation. All right. We don't want to find ourselves constantly doing the copy pastes or constantly doing the manual tasks. Let's find a way to automate some of these tasks, right? And we'll identify that in us building certain automations, right? You will realize that this automations that we build can actually be productized, right? So there are a lot of products out there, there are a lot of solutions out there which are performing automations, right? And they started from just a simple idea like this, where a task was identified at work which can be automated. It was automated, tested, everybody liked it, and it shot up into a business idea and then into a startup. All right. Now, let's build the nature of asking your managers, is there a better way we can do this? Right. So maybe you find yourself in a role where you report to a manager who maybe is a senior analyst, is a senior data professional, right? And maybe you're a junior data professional, right? If you identify there's a better way to run an automation, there's a better way to run a model, there's nothing wrong with suggesting, right? There's nothing wrong with suggesting, unless maybe your manager is not the type who is welcoming of ideas, right? But again, there's nothing wrong with suggesting that there's a better way we can do things, right? Now, I want us to begin to create quick prototypes, right? And again, this is linked to the conversation of building personal projects, right? So I think once we zoom into that conversation of building personal projects, it will become a lot more clearer. But again, the focus on this point is, I mean, let's not wait for things to be perfect, all right? Let's use an agile mindset to build quick prototypes that we can present, quick prototypes that we can demonstrate value with, instead of waiting for a report or a dashboard or a model to be perfect. All right. So again, the last point on this is for us to actually shift away from just working in the mindset of a waterfall mechanism into a mindset of an agile mechanism. Right. So I'll go to the next uh, uh, icon here, which is actually this icon we had. It speaks about leveraging online platforms. All right. I think better still, let's rather focus on the personal projects before we zoom into the leveraging online platforms. All right. Okay, so again, these are practical ways we can actually begin to create opportunities. All right, again, just to help recap, we have gone through various concepts on limiting beliefs. We have gone through various concepts of things we do that puts us in the box, right? We have gone through how we can move away from this box, and now we are beginning to look at actionable steps we can use to create opportunities for ourselves. And one way we can create opportunities for ourselves is to begin to test personal projects. All right. And again, this is a culture which is evolving globally, right? You see a lot of challenges on LinkedIn spewing up where you are given a challenge to build maybe a dashboard. You are given a challenge to build maybe a script to analyze data, right? These are all to help build our skills, right? But I want us to shift our mindset from just building a dashboard or building a script to demonstrate that you have the capacity or you have the skill, to focusing on the fact that we can actually use these opportunities to actually build opportunities for ourselves. All right. So one way we can do this is don't wait for a challenge to come up. Find a challenge yourself. All right. So maybe it's a task that you want to automate, right? Or maybe you are curious of a certain event, right? So I mean the conversation these days is on tariffs, right? So I mean something I've not really seen out there is I mean a deep dive into models that help us predict how these tariff conversations are going to influence markets, right? It's something which I've not really seen out there. It will be good to see. And trust me, if you're able to build such a model, you're able to generate deep predictions, right? You can strategically actually engage various financial institutions. You can engage investors, right? To tow them in the right direction. And you can strike a deal with them. If this prediction I've given you turns out to be real and you invest in maybe a sector or you invest in a country, maybe I'm entitled to some 5% of the proceeds, right? You have created opportunity for yourself, all right? Maybe there's I mean in the time of the COVID-19 when the pandemic started, all right? It was a time in which nobody anticipated pandemics. Nobody anticipated such pervasive illnesses, right? Anybody who actually created a tool that can help health institutions track new pandemics made some good money, right? Even though, yes, you can use dashboards to do this, but I mean, a tool that actually goes to the level of contact tracing, right? These are solutions which are data driven, which can actually be productized. All right. So again, the focus here is to take hobbies, to take these challenges, think differently. All right. I want us to shift away from just focusing on some of these challenges. Most of us are on Cargill. All right. I believe most of us will know Cargill, where I mean we are engaging in competitions. There are a number of Cargill competitions where there's money on the table. All right. It's not just about showing that you are the best script builder. I mean, let's make money out of this. All right. Let's build products out of this. Let's generate some revenue out of this. All right. And for me, this point, which is focusing on personal projects with purpose, not just projects, but the projects should be strategic. All right. And again, it should be focused on building products that we can actually turn into products that would evolve into startups that would help generate revenue. All right. Now, the next point is where we are leveraging online platforms. Again, this is a point which most of us are doing. And so I'm not going to stress so much, but I would want to touch on the points that we have to leverage online platforms strategically. If your focus is to build a professional career, right, you know what to do. The LinkedIn's are there. Um, 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 I mean, there are quite a number of platforms where you can push out thought leadership documents, right? Use them strategically, right? To actually build your professional career, to the level that you want it to. Right. So aside you just focusing on actually putting your skills out there, you can actually focus on painting a picture about yourself as a go-to professional in a specific topic of data. Right. And again, on this level of leveraging online platforms, I want us to think strategically. Let's create a niche for ourselves. Right. Let's not go into the realm of trying everything. Right. The data world is huge, right? There are so many topics in data. Find yourself a niche, right? Use the online platforms to create a good niche for yourself. Paint the picture that you are a go-to professional, right? So that various companies, various agencies come to you to build solutions, right? The last point is on freelancing and consulting, right? Again, the profession in which we find ourselves is a juicy profession for consulting services, right? And again, I'm from the consulting background, and so I can attest to the fact that, I mean, this profession in which we find ourselves is a profession where we can actually grow to build a good consulting career, right? So if you are not already in the world of consulting, the world of freelancing, and you are maybe job seeking, for example, this is a good avenue you can actually start, right? So you can use some of the challenges, you can use some of um, the engagement you have on LinkedIn to begin to engage with people, right? So try and engage. I mean, the world of consulting is about networking, right? Try and engage some of these platforms that we have. For example, this webinar we are having. I mean, there are lots of people connected, right? Lots of people from various backgrounds, various professional levels, right? It's a good avenue to actually connect and make new friends, right? Not just making friends, but actually making strategic connections, right? That can help um, 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 build opportunities for ourselves, right? So again, this point or this slide was meant for us to really focus our minds on how we can create opportunities for ourselves. And again, I hope these are actionable steps that we can take to getting this opportunities created. Okay. So I understand maybe some of you have questions. I don't know if it's a good time to maybe let's take a pause and maybe open the floor to this level before we zoom into the entrepreneurship and intrapreneurship conversation. So maybe let's open the floor right now if there are any questions. I think we have about 3 more slides to be done, close to about 15 minutes to go. So if there are any questions, please feel free, bring them up. Let's have a conversation. Again, this should be a conversation, not just a presentation. So I'll pause. If there are any questions, more than happy to pick them. Cornelove, I don't know if, I mean, if we still want to wait to the end, it's fine. But if there are any questions, maybe we can bring them up.
Okay. Thank you. Please, if you have any question, you want to ask him any question, you can lift your hand and we'll take your question. Okay. Okay, please, let's continue asking when they lift their hands and then we can respond accordingly.
Sure.
Thank you.
Sure. All right. So we're on the next slide now. Okay, I see Philip. Philip,
Hello.
yes, Philip. You can go ahead and ask your question.
So, Roger, thank you very much for the presentation. Roger, in our part of the world, Ghana, for instance, we live in an industry or in an industry where people are not really appreciated for, as in employees, are not appreciated in bringing initiatives as compared to outsiders. So let's say, as an employee, I bring an initiative it will be hard for company to pay me for the initiative. Since you are employee of the company, they will rather pay someone outside the company bringing that initiative than an employee of the company. What would be your advice on that?
Okay, Philip, uh, I totally agree, right? I totally agree. I've actually found myself in that situation before where you are bringing up ideas for change and nobody cares, right? I mean, I mean, there's that mindset of if it's not broken, let's not touch it, all right? But Philip, let's understand that yes, you find yourself in a company, but unless you see yourself working there forever, all right? If you see yourself moving into another professional circle, I mean, what you can do for me, which has worked in my professional path, is whatever idea you churn out, right? Try and find a way you can actually track um, the results of those ideas. So let me give you a classic example, right? Let's use the same um, finance industry. Maybe you find yourself in a bank, right? You have been reporting sales outcome in a certain way, right? And maybe you have an idea. Maybe the sales team used to be using maybe um, the way they report on sales is maybe they convene in a meeting every day and then everybody presents their sales outcomes, right? Okay. Now, let's say maybe your solution is for the sales team to use maybe a tablet, for example. Instead of coming to the office, we all meet, which is necessary, right? Why don't they, anytime maybe they close a new client, maybe they're in the market, somebody decides to open an account, all right? Maybe the person is not opening an account right there, okay? There could be a tablet where maybe you collect the person's details. Maybe the person wants to open a savings account, all right? You track all your sales pipeline in real time instead of maybe writing them down on paper. I'm just using this as an example, right? It will definitely require maybe some investment. So maybe if you present this idea, uh, maybe management has to make funding available to procure tablets. Management has to make funding available to maybe set up a survey tool, for example. All right. Because of this investment, maybe management will not be interested to pick this idea. All right. Two ways you can handle this. All right. One is the obvious. You definitely keep pushing. All right. You keep pushing. Now, the next option that can work for you is, let's say maybe you've pushed and you're at a level where management is beginning to accept this, all right? Or maybe you are not even at that level. Find a way you can track, okay, outcomes of this conversation. So maybe the sales team, it took them more time to actually convene. Everybody brings their results, you now pull into Excel, and then you now pull into a report. All right. If we use a tablet, what time is it going to save the team? All right. In terms of data quality, how is that going to influence data quality? All right. So instead of just pushing the idea as a one-off idea, let's buy tablets to automate the sales team's process. Sell them the idea of what is it going to save, right? What cost saving is it going to bring into the company? Is it going to save time? Is it going to help track sales better, right? So sell some of these ideas. Okay. Somebody will say, okay, what if you sell all these ideas and still nobody is giving you the listening ear? All right. Use that as a case study. All right. Put out a paper or put out a post. All right. How sales force or maybe sales strategies can be impacted by the use of maybe automated reporting tools. Maybe push it out there on LinkedIn. All right. Definitely you will have a listening ear. All right. Or if you want to go to the next level, why don't you maybe productize this? All right. And maybe test it with the team. All right. Maybe there's a free trial you can test. All right. So my point here is there are so many options you can explore before actually throwing in a towel. All right. Again, we might find ourselves in this environment where at times feedback or suggestions that we give are not given, are not taken. But I believe there are so many steps you can take to actually push these ideas. And if nothing works, own this idea, push it as an idea on your own. Maybe try and productize it, all right, and see how the industry actually responds to this. So for me, I think these are some few ideas I can chip in on how we can navigate some of these challenges.
Sure. Thank you very much, Roger.
Yeah. So I see a hand from Daddy Selby. Yeah, I don't know
Yeah, Mr.
if I
Roger,
got a
please,
name.
good evening.
Good evening.
Please, I share the same sentiments with the concern that my brother just raised. And in
Yes.
the later part of your submission, I think you have answered me. But my own is like, if I should share that experience, I happens to be in a company that I found out that there's a challenge with their pricing system. Actually, we order things outside the country, we bring it in the country, then want to convert to Ghana cedis, the freight and everything. So I was all the time I see my boss using paper writing. I say, what kind of this we can just use Excel to get. So I try and get some, even though I didn't have much knowledge about it, but with research I begin to do something about it unknowingly to him. After I've done everything, presenting the project to him, initially he was excited, but that was going on. He was claiming ownership as if the thing is for him. So I was asking myself, what should I do to claim this thing back? Then I
So
asked people about all these things. Then actually they told me about how to code the Excel, and I put every a code on it. Then that saved me in a way. So today, if I'm not in the company, they need to come back to me for me to open that worksheet for them before they can actually do anything about that. So I think with your last submission that you just made, I've taken a clue about it. I should own it and I should not give up. I should try as much as possible to also sell the ideas to people. So thank you very much for that
yeah,
insight.
that's a good point. But let me quickly just add on to what you just submitted. Okay. See, nobody can own solutions that you initiate. All right. Let me give you a very smart way you can actually go around this. Okay. So always find a tracking mechanism. So that's why I always go find your baseline before the tool or the solution was implemented. How was work being done? What cost saving is the tool going to do? Is it going to save time of work? Is it going to save investment? Is it going to increase revenue? These are all things you should be able to track. If even maybe your manager or your lead or whoever tries and own the system, try and find a way to track this. All right. This solution is always your own. Put this on your CV. In finding your new job, this is a conversation line you can initiate during your interviews. That I implemented the solution. It saved the company this cost. It's maybe increased revenue. You can actually demonstrate that the solution you've implemented has created an impact. For me, that is the best strategy for you if you find yourself in this situation. All right. Find a way to track the impact, own the impact, and sell yourself with the impact.
Okay, thanks very much, and I appreciate all this advice. I'll work on that.
Sure. It looks like we are way behind time, but maybe let's take Prosper. I don't know if there's any other hand up. Maybe we can take Prosper, then I'll try and wrap up.
Okay. Hello. Good evening, Tim.
Yes.
So I also want to share similar sentiment, just like my colleagues who earlier spoke. What I want us to emphasize is the fact that when you look at our traditional corporate environment, you realize that with the way things are moving now, institutions need innovations. They need new ways of doing things, just like what we are discussing at the moment. But the major challenge with these institutions is, especially the financial institutions, they attach risks to everything. Okay. So even though you are an employee of the institution, and then from the tax that you handle on your desk, you've been able to see that, oh, maybe if we do things this way, it will help the institution. When you try to bring that up, they don't really buy into it. They'll apply every form of risks to it. They rather prefer seeking help from third-party vendors. So there are services that there are things that maybe you as an employee within the organization you can do. You can design yourself and it will help. But the institution may not buy into it. They will prefer going to sort out the services of a third-party vendor. So I think at the end of the day, it all boils down to you owning your own initiative. You be in the organization, all right. You may have initiative, you may innovate, but you realize that your innovation wouldn't be applied, or you not be allowed to apply your innovation there unless you own it, like you were saying, which at the end of the day, it's not always helpful, because by the time you get your ideas to sell out there, if you were using it within your own space, within the organization you are working for, it would have at least moved faster. But that's a major challenge we face actually.
That's why I think well put there. I totally agree with your points. I see one last hand up, Peter, but again, I don't know. Conilove, do we want to box everything to the end, or we can extend?
Okay, so we'll take Kita for now,
Hi.
and
So
you finish
Peter,
your presentation, after which
sure.
after
Hi.
which we'll take a few questions. Hi, Peter.
Yes.
Please, if you have
Go ahead.
any questions, please, after Peter, and after the presentation, you can ask any other questions. Please put them down in writing so that you don't forget. Peter, please speak to us.
Okay. Hi. With regards to this conversation, when you find yourself in certain organizations that have this
Yes,
hidden,
Peter, please, we are listening to you. Please speak.
when you find yourself in organization that have this clause that any app or any development you make whilst on the company's compound or premises or company's machine belongs to the company, how do you circumvent such situations?
Peter, I mean, definitely. I mean, whatever product you're developing finally becomes an intellectual property of the legal entity you're with. I mean, that's legally, I don't see anything wrong with that. Right. But at the end of the day, nobody can hold you responsible or come and penalize you on selling yourself with that idea. All right. So if it's a solution you've developed, again, if this solution, the entire idea from conception down to implementation and execution came from you, why can't you use this in your CV? Why can't you use this in conversations with different professionals to sell yourself? I don't see nothing wrong with that. All right. So if you can't take the solution physically, maybe the code, maybe the scripts, maybe the dashboard, whatever solution it is, you can own the results, you can own the outcomes. And for me, that is more strategic. I hope that satisfies your answer, Peter.
Yes, it does. Thank you.
All right, so let's quickly wrap up. Then we can have some time for questions. All right, so forgive me. I'll run through. I have about 3 more slides, and then we are good to go. Right. So I mean, this slide is really focused on how we can actually balance the two concepts, right, of creating opportunities. So we can create opportunities through entrepreneurship, that is creating new businesses, creating new solutions that we can productize, and then intrapreneurship, where we are innovating new solutions in our companies. So I'll quickly just run it through. So, I mean, for entrepreneurship, again, we have to adopt the mindset of a data-driven founder. All right. So, I mean, it's very similar to you being a software engineer or you being a software developer. All right. We've had a long period of successful founders who have mostly been in the software engineering world. We are now in a realm where we are having a lot more data founders who are developing solutions that are data driven. All right. So we can always learn from some of the solutions, best practices that have worked, and always use them to productize ideas. So I'll run through some of this, not all. All right. So again, taking the first point, you think like a problem solver and not just a task taker. All right. So for here, we need to begin to identify real world problems. All right. And in the world of entrepreneurship, I mean, there's always a conversation of solve a problem that impacts a broad scale. And then with that, you can actually build a product that can be scaled and can generate revenue, right? So again, let's think of real world problems that we can productize as a data-driven solution, and then begin to explore how best we can turn that into businesses. All right. So again, just for the sake of time, I won't go through everything, but I'm sure these are all slides which I mean we can share with all the audience so that we can always go in here and revisit. All right. Now for entrepreneurship, right, where I believe most of us will find ourselves in, because again, we are working in companies, right? Again, it's really the challenge here is to shift our mindset. All right. Let's see our roles again as strategic roles, not just task managers, not just developer roles. All right. So, I mean, let's begin to now take the company as if the company is a client of yours. All right. And actually build solutions for such companies. And again, not just those solutions, but try and own the solutions, try and own the impact. It's very important. We don't just focus on delivering solutions, try and own the impacts that these solutions are making. So set a baseline. What was the the numbers before the solution? What are the numbers after the solution? And use that as a case to actually sell yourself. Okay. So I'll quickly zoom here. Again, for the sake of time, I'll just talk through some of these points, but I believe this is just a build up from where we have been. Okay. And again, this slide is focused on building data-driven products and solutions. And this is meant for us to explore opportunities that we can turn into businesses. So one of the first steps is to productize repeated analysis. So again, this is very focused on working with visualizations. All right. So if there's a visualization which is constantly repeated, maybe it's not automated. All right. And this visualization can actually be productized in the sense that maybe the data is publicly available, and maybe there's lack of insights across an industry, for example. All right. You can actually build a product out of such a solution. And again, this conversation is around how we can begin to build opportunities for ourselves that we can turn into businesses. All right. So that is one way you can actually leverage this mindset. Then leverage on successful experiments. So, I mean, this is connected to the previous slide where we are all encouraged to constantly engage in projects that are strategic. All right. So find a problem, find publicly available data, try and build a solution out of it, try and track the impact, all right, of what that report gives you, all right. if it's a successful experiment, all right, we can always turn this into a product, all right. And again, even though we are making these points of building products, again, let's not isolate the mindset of validating some of these ideas, all right. There should always be a conversation of product fit to market, all right. So fine, this might be a successful project, but the next conversation is, would the market accept this? Is this a sellable idea? Is this solving a real problem in the market? All right. These are all questions you need to answer before you even zoom into the conversation of you trying to build a product or a business out of this. All right. Now, another way to actually build opportunities is we can fill the cups of analytic tools. What does this mean? All right. What this basically means is, I mean, there are quite a number of tools out there that we are constantly working with, right? Now, most of the tools, some of them are open sourced, right? If you are participating in the open source community, you are constantly contributing to code changes to some of these products, right? Try and always find a way you can identify opportunities you can productize, all right? Trust me, a lot of solutions we see out there, which are even built from open source tools, was built out of filling a gap, right, in the open source community. And then you identify opportunity from there and then you scale it into a business, right? So find something that annoys analysts, right? A classic case would be maybe in Power BI, for example. Power BI has a big community, all right? And the community actually constantly either push out visualizations or constantly builds various visuals for the marketplace, right? If you identify that there's a gap that can be productized, that can be sold, why not? Try and test it. If there's a product fit, a product market fit, why can't we turn that into an opportunity? All right. Now, last and not least is for us to ride the wave of new tech. All right. And what this step or what this point actually focuses on is whatever new technology there are. Okay. I mean, in our world now, it's generative AI is a big conversation now, right? Ride this new wave, right? Find a way you can actually leverage on these tools to help enhance the solutions that we are building. And um, again, this conversation today is not really a conversation of technical stuff. It's a conversation of how we can actually rewire our thinking. So for me, this point is try and find new tools that are out there and how can you integrate these tools into some of the solutions that you build. Most importantly, generative AI, conversational AI, find ways that these tools can actually be productized and turn into products that can be turned into businesses. All right. So let's zoom into the last slide, then we can begin to conclude. So I'd like to touch on some real world examples, right, of how people who were working in traditional 9 to 5 companies turned some of the challenges they had into businesses. All right. So I'll start with the Google Flu Trends. Right. So Google Flu Trends is basically a tracking tool that Google engineers have developed. Right. So it's very similar to your COVID-19 tracker, but it helps track flu incidences across the world. All right. So, I mean, this came out of a simple conversation. All right. Google engineers just asked themselves that why can't we build a product out of flu search trends? So the whole idea is if people are searching constantly for flu trends, for example, all right, or people within a specific geography, within a specific context, they identify maybe there's a spike in the search of flu that could denote that maybe flu has emanated in a specific geography, right? So there's that linkage that you can create, or there's that connection that you can create. And so Google actually built this tool out of this simple question, all right? So there's Google Trends, there's the big search engine, which is Google search engine, right? So if people are searching on flu, right, within a specific geography, there's a high linkage to there being a local incidence of flu cases. That is very logical. And you can build a simple reporting tool that churns out insights on this, right? So this is one clear example where a simple task was turned into a product, right? This is not monetized yet. I don't think it's monetized yet. But again, it's just to help us see that we can use some of these ideas to actually create products that can be turned into business solutions. The next is the conversation on Supermetrics. So Supermetrics, the co-founder of Supermetrics is Mikhail Tuneberg. And Mikhail Tuneberg, I mean, he was a web analyst in the company he found himself. And I mean, he had a simple problem, all right? The problem was, I mean, he was basically tired of manually moving marketing data into Excel, all right? So what he did was, why doesn't he build an automation where marketing insights can be churned out through an API, right? And Supermetrics was born. So you can see in Mikhail's case, he found himself in a role where this was a routine task, right? Moving data from on marketing data into Excel. And he turned this into a tool, which, I mean, is actually a successful solution being used out there, right? So there's Duolingo. I mean, some of us will know Duolingo. Duolingo is basically a solution for, I think it's a language solution, right? It helps translate different languages. And again, the idea of Duolingo is based on the use of A/B testing and then user level learning data, right? And again, these are standard algorithms which are used on a day-to-day basis. But I mean, this solutions, sorry, this standard algorithms was used to actually churn out this solution, right? So there's Depict Data Studio, and again, Depict Data Studio, that's Anne Emery, and I mean, Anne Emery's, I mean, Depict Data Studio is basically a data visualization service, all right, where she actually runs the service as a consultancy offering for various companies. All right. So it's more focused on consulting, but basically around building visualizations. All right. So maybe let me just take Tableau and then we can zoom into conclusions. So if most of us are familiar with Tableau, but during this research, I just found out that Tableau was actually an internal experiment from Stanford. All right. And basically, Stanford researchers were playing around with this solution out of frustration. All right. And basically, Tableau was born. All right. So you can see, I mean, all these examples, even the flaming hot Cheetos, which is not really a data analyst example, but it's more focused on how we can think outside the box. You can see all these examples is day-to-day people working, I mean, normal 9 to 5 jobs, but I mean, they constantly ask themselves these questions, and these questions turned out to be things they could productize or turn into solutions that are now businesses, right? So these are all examples out there. Again, these are far-fetched, yeah, in the West, not in Africa. But I feel, again, we can always learn from some of these things and try and localize some of the solutions, right? The conversation here is not for you to go and build something similar to Supermetrics, right? The focus here is to adopt a similar thinking pattern, adopt a similar mindset in how you operate as a data analyst, right? So let's zoom into conclusions. I mean, 4 points for conclusions. Let's understand that the box exists, but even though the box exists, we can always jump out of this box by thinking differently. So how do we think differently? We have to embrace the mindset of strategic thinking, the mindset of looking at our roles as strategic roles, be more open to stakeholder engagements, and be more open to thinking as a problem solver. Okay. The next point, which is on shifting your mindset to become a real innovator. For me, this point is very key because again, it equally challenges me. I mean, to shift. I mean, my mindset. Right. So again, I don't talk from a high stool or a high ground. Right. I'm equally prone to some of these things, and I feel again, this is an opportunity for all of us, myself inclusive, to actually take on some of these ideas and begin to shape how we operate. All right. Now, we already have the skills, right? Most of us here would have the skills of a data professionals, right? So let's begin to think of how we can use those skills creatively, right? So for me, I want us to shift away from just perfecting those skills, even though it's important, but let's begin to think strategically. How can we begin to monetize the skills? How can we begin to change the environments we find ourselves? How can we begin to create value with the skills we have? All right. So last and not least is for us to start small, right? Even though we are being encouraged to think outside the box, to think strategically, it doesn't mean go and move a mountain by tomorrow, right? So that's why I started with actionable steps that we can take, right? So let's take some of these actions step by step, day by day, right? So start by exploring what propositions you can make, what changes you can make to some of the way you work, right? And how can you propose this to management? How can you propose these ideas to your direct line, right? So for me, it's this point is for us to really understand that we cannot move the mountain in a day, right? It takes gradual small steps to actually implement these changes. And let's be actually very um, conscious about it, right? That we are making this conscious decision to shift our mindset from today into thinking more strategically. Okay. So I think this should be my end, but I would like to introduce this new conversation, which I believe this conversation is a conversation that I've been having in a smaller circle, but I feel, I mean, this is a good platform for me to bring it up. And this is a concept of a community of data professionals, right? And I've been thinking of how can we as data professionals create an alliance, right? And this alliance should be focused on how we can engage as a community of professionals, how we can actually interact and then build our professional skills. Most importantly, how can we begin to take a policy influencing role, right? So the idea here is a vision of a data community where we can all collaborate as data experts, and then where we can encourage ourselves to build capacity, and where we can grow into a community that influences policy, that drives a new data agenda in Africa, right? So again, this is something that is quite new. Is starting right from today, all right? So it's a call on all of us, right? The call is simple. Why don't we build a community where we can collaborate, where we can influence policy across top strategic levels, all right? So the idea here is simple, right? It's basically just going to be a data community where everybody gets to participate in specialties. So the small boxes you see down there are the concept of tribes. So picture it to be a big community having sub-communities, where each of the sub-communities is basically a pool of experts with similar ideas. So for example, if you are interested in data engineering, for example, you'll find yourself in a community of like-minded people where we'll constantly be pushing thought leadership documentations, constantly be pushing ideas collectively, not as silos, right? And constantly be building ourselves, right? Again, the focus here is to constantly engage through similar avenues like this. We run webinars, we run thought leadership documents. We meet as professionals on a periodic basis to engage on new ideas. And we grow this community into a community that becomes an influential voice in the space of data, right? So again, it's an open invite to everybody here. If this is a vision you are interested to participate in, there's that link there. You can just register, right? And the focus here is once you register, we'll begin to look at how best we can start building this community, right? So again, this is going to be, the vision here is to build a community of data experts that collaborates constantly through webinars, through technical sessions, who churn out thought leadership documents to really influence decision making in the space of data. All right. So again, it's an invite for all of us. If this is a vision that you want to be part of, I'm making this invite available to all of us. Let's register and participate in this vision. So what I'll do is I'll quickly drop the actual link in here. But I'll drop it in our chat. If this is something that we are interested in, let's participate in this new initiative that potentially can grow into something big that influences decision making. So this should be the end of my presentation. I'll leave this slide on for us for this to marinate in our minds. All right, and I guess the floor is open for any questions that there are. So, Connie Love, I'll leave the floor to you now, and I'm open to take any questions.
Thank you so much for such an amazing presentation. We've learned so much. And what I took from it is the part where you say we are all in a box. And when you think of it, no matter how which side you look at it from, we're all in a box working, doing the same mundane things over and over again. And this is truly an eye-opening experience. Thank you so much. We have a few hands. I see Nuku's hand. So we'll take a few questions and then we'll call it a night, if that's okay with you.
Oh, yes. Even though we are far
Right.
behind time, but I mean, if we are all okay to stay, I'm okay.
All right. We'll take just two questions and then we call it a night. So Nuku, if you're ready, we would like to hear from you. Please, before Nuku speaks, I've seen a lot of comments where people are asking, would they get the slides? Would they get the slides? So we're asking, would you give us the slides?
Oh, that's something I will do. I mean, I mentioned that, so I'll share the slides to you, and then you can share with everybody.
Hi, Roger.
Hello, can you hear me? Hello?
Hello.
Hello, can you hear
Hello.
me?
Please, can you hear
Yeah,
me?
we can hear you. Yes, I can hear you.
Noku, can you hear me?
Yes, please. Good
Okay,
evening.
then. Yes, good
Yes.
evening.
Yeah, thank you very much for your presentation. Yes, so I want to ask. So for me, I am now in the university, but I actually I want to become a data analyst. So what I'm doing now is to start learning some things on my own, like the uh SQL and all those stuff. So yes, so I want to ask. So those of us who are now coming up, how should we prepare for the field? Like what should we do?
Hello. I'm
Yes.
sorry about
Hello.
that. My network is a bit unstable here. So Nuku, please speak. Let's hear your question.
Noku was on the floor. He was asking his question.
Yes. So
Hi, please, aside Nuku,
hi.
you have a question. Okay.
Yes, so that's my question. I don't know if you get me or
Yes.
should
Noku,
I take it again?
I got your question clearly. All right. So
Okay.
Nuku,
Yes, please. Yes, please.
I think my answer would be for everybody who is either still in school or actually planning to actually zoom into the data community, right?
Yes,
Trust
yes,
me,
please.
you are in the best time, right, to actually be a data professionals. And I say this because there are so many platforms out there, so many avenues out there. All right. One clear example is ALX. MasterCard is
Yes,
funding ALX
yes,
on a
yes.
on a big agenda to have a number of data professionals
Yes,
by
yes,
2030 or so, right? There's a big vision
yes.
being pushed by MasterCard, right? And you don't pay a dime,
Mm, yes,
right? You just need to register, demonstrate certain skills, and you are in, right?
mm,
So
yes,
you are in
yes.
the best time, right? Because again, you have
Mm,
so many avenues out there you can use to actually build your skills, right? Most of them are free, right? Some are paid,
okay.
but most of them are free, all right?
Yes, please. Yes,
YouTube
please.
is YouTube should be your best friend, all right? There's this
Yes,
funny
yes.
statement that for every IT video, there's an Indian that has a video for it, right? So you will definitely see videos out there,
Okay,
even on YouTube, right, teaching you
okay,
one thing or another on
okay,
data, right?
okay.
The advice I'll
Yes,
give you is this: find a niche for yourself. So that is why this concept of us having a data community where we are in tribes is very important. All right.
okay.
You can't be a jack of all trades.
Mm,
All right. You have to find yourself in a niche, right? You have to find yourself in a space where you build a skill and then you use this to leverage opportunities. All right. So it's important you find yourself a niche and then you build
okay.
that niche for yourself. All right.
Um, I
So
see. Thank
I see Boedi is saying the ALS program is not free. Okay. I mean, maybe
Yes, so it used to be free, but for the data analyst and I think web development and some few ones, I think we are paying some few coins for them. So yeah, but it used to be free though.
okay. Okay.
Yes.
So, I mean, so like I'm saying, there
Mm,
there are quite a number of open source or free avenues out there. All right.
okay.
Take
Okay.
advantage of these avenues. All right.
All right.
And
All
start.
right.
And again, it's you might be flooded with so much information. It's normal. All right. Try and find a niche which you are interested in. All right. And I feel that's why this
Okay.
vision is very important. And even not just for professionals, but even for people like you who are still in school. It's
Okay.
important we form this community where we can actually constantly build ourselves, right? So this community can grow into a community where professionals get to teach young professionals, build young professionals, mentor young professionals. I mean, it's a similar program that Blossom Academy offers, right? But again, for this vision is more of a community, right? Where
Okay.
we get to engage as a community. All right.
Okay. Okay. So
I hope this answers your question.
yes. Thank you very much.
Okay. So I see a number of hands. Cornelia, maybe you can moderate who comes in with their question. We've lost Cornelia, I guess. Okay. I think if Cornelia is not here, then maybe Foster, you can come with your question. Then Angelica comes. Then I guess those are the only hands I see.
Okay, good evening once again.
Yeah,
Um,
Foster.
so my name is Foster. I work with Max by Ghana at the moment. I'm actually a finance officer and a data analyst there at the moment. And also I'm a developer as well. So my question is, there is a platform like GitHub where developers we push our codes and all that from time to time. But one thing I'm faced with is when it comes to data, especially when you develop insight out of a particular data, you don't have anywhere to publish that kind of information for people to access and all that. So I don't know if there is any platform like that, like get the way we have GitHub, if there's any platform like that, because most often I've worked with data, free source data like from Google Data Search, Data Gov, World Bank, Open Data, and a lot. So, but I don't have anywhere to publish those insights. So it's just seated right here on my desktop. So yes, that's my question.
So first up, quick one. This insights you want to publish, is it company related or it's just a side project that you're working on?
So actually, it's a side project I'm working on. I do them on my free times,
Okay. Okay. I mean,
and
GitHub,
then
I think
when
GitHub is just,
I mostly when I listen to news and then I get to
hello, Foster. Yes.
hello,
I think you were breaking at some
yes,
point. Okay, so can I come
sorry,
in?
please you were
Yes.
saying
So I think GitHub will just be a
yes,
code repository, right? So maybe if you have scripts, GitHub will be the best place you can host them. But it's not a place where you get to, if your focus is to get people to see your skills, right? I think the best avenue for you will be LinkedIn, right? So you can take advantage of LinkedIn,
okay,
and
okay,
if whatever project you're working on, you want people to access, maybe if it's a dashboard, if you want people to access this dashboard, you can actually post it on LinkedIn, right? Medium is available. I think Edmond mentioned that Medium is also a good platform where you can actually post some of this content, right? So again, if your focus is just to demonstrate your skills in a specific area, these are some of the avenues. LinkedIn, best. Medium, I think Medium is paid for you to post content of a certain level, but I think LinkedIn is like should be your first playground. So use LinkedIn, but if you want
okay.
multiple platforms for visibility, Medium is there quite a number. All right. So I hope that answers your question, Foster. All right. So maybe we can go to Angelica. I see Angelica, your hand is up.
Okay, thank you so much, Roger. For mine, it's just a quick one. With the communities, the ones listed here, I realize that, NLP, AI, they are apparently the same. So does it mean that we get to choose all of them which are interconnected or just one?
I mean, if, for example, I totally agree. NLP and AI, AI is a big umbrella. NLP is in there.
Yeah.
I mean, since they are the same umbrella, you can just select the two. Maybe with time we will refine the classifications.
Oh, okay. So we can choose more than one. None.
Yeah,
All
yeah, you
right.
can choose more than one, which I see
Thank you
people
so
are
much.
choosing. People are choosing more than one. So yeah.
Thank you.
So please, I encourage us, please let's register if you're interested in joining this community. Register. With time, we'll be sending next steps for some of the things that we'll be doing. Again, this the vision is for us to grow this into a community where, I mean, they are like-minded professionals in each tribe. So imagine you are maybe in the data engineering tribe, you would have people with similar mindsets, and you'll be contributing to webinars, contributing to thought leadership documents, constantly engaging to build capacity. And again, if this grows into a big community, trust me, you can do a lot. Most importantly, we can influence policy, which really is the strategic level where, as professionals, we have to get to. And I feel it's a gap that is missing. And um, if we can do this collectively and collaboratively, we can build something great out of this. So if there are no more questions, I think this should bring us to the end of the session. I don't know. I don't see Connie Love in the call. Anybody from Blossom Academy?
Yes, please.
All right. So I don't see any other hand up. If every question in the chat has been answered.
I think Costa has his hands up, or was that a
no.
mistake?
Yes, Costa's
Okay,
question has been
has been
addressed.
answered. All right.
Yes.
All right. So thank you so much for coming in today, Roger. We appreciate all that you have shared with us. And on Monday, I'm sure Connie Love will share the slides with everybody on the call. And to everyone on the call as well. So we appreciate that you took time off your Saturdays to also join the webinar.
Okay. All right. So thank you, everybody. And like discussed, I will do well and share the slides so we can all have access to the content.
All right, please. Have a good evening.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye.